see you. Um, I am Jonathan. I'm here with Becca, and this is our ongoing Office Hours series. So, for those folks who haven't been here before, what we do is we're going to show you some things about Hindenburg, just kind of that you may or may not be aware of. And then what we're going to do is break out to some tables where you can ask trainers questions directly. Okay, if you have a question that's about the thing that we're showing, that's kind of broadly useful for the folks that are here and streaming, the folks watching Hello YouTube, folks, and our Facebook friends, we are yeah, that's great. But if you have a specific question that's not really about what we're doing, just remember after this we'll break out to some tables and you can ask us directly. Becca, you want to tell them a little bit about AirMeet and how it works?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Beck, and just a few things about AirMeet before we get started. Your cameras and mics are disabled, so we cannot see or hear any of you. And there was some conversation in the chat about the tables, and you don't have to turn your camera on back there. That's just fine. If you want to come and hang out with us afterwards, you can unmute yourself, but if you want to use your camera, you can. Right now, we can't see or hear you. If you have a question, make sure that you put them in the Q&A tab. So to the right of, or I'm sorry, to the left of the chat, you can see these little icons. There's one that's a Q&A. That is where you put your questions. And then we can, if we have enough time, we can go over some of those afterwards. I will pull them up on the screen so we can read them. I'll read them to Jonathan and he can answer them. But if they're in the main chat, we won't be able to get to them. But we can, again, get to them hopefully at the tables afterwards. Also, in the middle of your screen at the bottom, there is a little smiley face emoji. You can click on that and hit some reactions as Jonathan is presenting to give him some digital love, like some, thumbs up or claps or hearts or whatever you feel like, however you feel moved to support Jonathan in this presentation. Let's see what else. Is there anything else before we get started, Jonathan?
I will answer one question that comes up a lot, and we'll always answer it. So this is being live streamed. The first part of this, remember, it's in two parts. The first part's this very short presentation about a feature you may or may not know about, and then the second part is the office hour, the tables part, where again you can ask your specific questions to a trainer. For that first part, sometimes folks want to see a replay. So this is live streamed into two places. It's on our YouTube page. There is a tab for live, and that's where you can find all of our live events. And we also do a replay on actually three places, both our Facebook news page and our Facebook community page. So I welcome you to, if you're not already in the community, join. It's a great place to just talk to your fellow user and, ask questions and all that kind of stuff. Okay. I think that's it. So let me just get going with what I'm on about this week or this month. So a little while ago, I hurt my hand or my arm. I was injured. And so it just reminded me a bit about some parts of Hindenburg that maybe folks aren't aware of. So I called this one, one-hand editing. So Hindenburg, as I hope everyone is aware of, was designed to be it's a DAW, a digital audio workspace, but one that is very easy for people to use. And so there's a lot of kind of functionality that's hidden away, which is sort of the idea of this series, like make you aware of some things you might not be aware of. So some of this you folks out there may be aware of. But the idea with using a DAW is that, people are used to some amount of key commands like copy, paste, that kind of thing from like a text editor, say Microsoft Word or what have you. And the idea is that, a lot of those types of things work in Hindenburg as well. So like if I clicked on this region and I wanted to copy and I pressed Control C or Command V, if you're on Command C, sorry, just your standard like copy. And then I clicked somewhere else and I went Command V, you could paste it in. I think most of you are probably aware of that part. But some of you might have noticed that I don't have to hold the Command or Control key at all for that thing, actually, at all, because I can just click on this and say C, copy, and just the Command V will paste. So there are a handful of edit keys, and they're these ones that are up here, and some others that are actually one key edit commands, and we actually have that by default. The idea there is that if you, just to make things a little easy, because certain things that come up so often that we wanted to make it so that you could just not have to be holding multiple keys. Okay. Some other commands, because there are, I don't know, 350 commands or something. So they're not all going to be one key edits. But there are some other things I'm going to show you that do work like this. So Command C, Command V, you just have to press Command C or just C or V. Also, if you make a selection like this, for those folks who don't know how to do that, I'm going to show you two ways. But in that case, I just clicked and dragged. If I wanted to cut this and get rid of it, I could just press, you could come up here and press, cut. There's a key command for that. And just like the other one, since it's such a common one, it's just X. And so that's another one of those. And then yet the other one that comes up pretty often is split. The idea with how Hindenburg's regions work, regions are these little bits of audio here, is that, this is like a block of audio, right? This region. You can split this with one key as well. I'm just pressing the key B. And if that seems counterintuitive, it's like B for break. The reason it's not S for split is because S is save. So anyway, I can split this and then I can, isolate parts of the region and drag them and do whatever, right? Delete them or anything like that. Delete's another one of those. You can just delete stuff, okay? So I'm going to undo some things, get back to where we were, all right? So that's one key edit commands. Now, me with my little injured hand here, I'm doing this all with my left hand. I'm right-handed anyway. So, it's really not that hard to do. But there is some of you might know that. Some of you might not know that. But there's some things, some additional ones that I think folks really may not be aware. The idea, again, it was designed to be a software that most people could use. It was also designed to be something that you could use, with one hand for edits. So I'm not doing any mousing around right now, meaning my mouse. I'm just doing this stuff. I'm going to use some other keys to do some rewinding and that kind of thing, and put in those in and out markers and that stuff as well. Okay, so for one thing, let's just start here with the selection. Okay, I did click and drag. Okay, when you click and drag, you make a selection. If you were to drag it across multiple tracks, if I had audio on different tracks, you'd be dragging across. That selection would affect both of those tracks. And that's how you do that. Once you make a selection here, if you don't want it to be there, you just press the escape key on both Mac and Windows, and it'll go away. You also can, if you put these in afterwards, go up here and hover over the top. There's a little green part, which is like go, and there's a red part, which is like stop. Okay, red icon here. If you wanted to refine that, you can click and drag to do finer editing. Oh, I should say, by the way, AirMeet here is in a browser. So if you're viewing this on your screen, and I'm going to try to make this a little larger so everyone can see it. You want to just put this in full screen. It's just going to be easier to see. That's all. Because I think I'm just going to do this with one region here. Okay. So there's another way that you can put these in. Okay, which is to press the I key and then click somewhere else and press the O key like that. Okay. And you could, if you put that in and you realize that was in the wrong place, instead of coming up here and clicking and dragging, you could just click somewhere else and press O, and it'll automatically kind of adjust the timing of this. Okay. So I'm doing all this just by clicking so far. Okay. Change the input, change the output. So I click in the middle. Oh, no, I do want to get rid of this instead. Oh, very easy way to do that. And then you could just delete it or whatever. That's another thing, where you can do that. But some of these keys I'm going to show you next I don't think folks sometimes know about them. So if I wanted to come down here to this transport bar, okay, this is where you would play and start and stop the recording. By the way, another edit key that's just kind of useful is R. Okay, if I press R, I'm record enabling this track, so arming the track. And if I press, I don't want to arm the track, I just get rid of it by pressing R. So that's another one I happen to do all the time and don't even think about it anymore. But of course, you could come down here, arm the track. Well, you got to arm, go over here, then come over here and use these things. Okay, so this is pretty standard stuff, like go back to the beginning, rewind, stop, play, fast forward. That's how the transport bar works. Pretty standard kind of things, right? So you don't have to do that and come down here to do those things in fast forward and that kind of thing. It is available in keys. So I'm going to play the audio first, just so you can hear it. Get rid of this. Okay. If I press the space bar, it plays the audio.
The rows of machinery to get to the only machine that's idle.
Okay. That's the thing. If I wanted to like put the cursor, let's say around here, where she says to get the only or whatever it is, I can click and go over here. I could use that transport bar and hold it down and fast forward and that, but I also can use the keys on my keyboard. Okay, so I'm now putting my 3 fingers over the J, K, and L key. This is true for Mac and Windows. If I press the J key, it's going to rewind. And it sounds awesome, by the way. It sounds like the people in Twin Peaks to me. But anyway, that's a dated reference. So, yeah, so that's that. If I press the L key, it will fast forward, go in the other direction instead of rewinding.
Past the rows of machinery to get to the only machine that's idle.
And that's in normal time, both ways. But if I did the same thing and I held down the key that's in the middle of them, the K key, I can do it fast. Okay, and the idea was that for some of this stuff, you can just sort of touch the keys, press I, maybe fast forward, press O. I'm doing all this just by clicking one-handed, just key, cut, rewind it, listen back to the edit, which was nonsense, but
past to get to the only machine. That's
actually worked out. Look at that. Fun fact also, when you make cuts in Hindenburg, there's an auto crossfade so that things like what I just did, you can do sort of very easily. So the idea is that instead of mousing and clicking and going over here and going over there, you can just use, I'm doing this all with one hand. You can just rewind, input, fast forward,
only machine,
or faster, put your out marker and cut.
That's idle.
And there you go. So that's how you would do some of those one-handed keys, one-handed edits, and use it. And that was that's an old part of the design that was meant to be so you could, do this. So this actually has always been in Hindenburg, but Hindenburg works in a new way, right? For those folks who are don't know about, weren't with us for version 1. Version 1 doesn't have some of the features that this new version has. And so, one of those is transcription. Okay, so this clip of audio that we have here has been transcribed. And so I'm just going to open up the transcription window here just to show you where that is. By the way, if you ever want to see stuff, you can always do that by the view drop-down menu, and you can open things up. Okay, so we're going to open up this manuscript here. Okay, so this is just, we're not here to talk too much about the transcription part, but you just click into the parts of it, and then you can do the editing. But it works a little differently, and that's by design. The reason is that because now you're editing text stuff, right? So like you're like typing in parts of the transcription, and it's much more like a text editor that edits the audio. Some of those like key commands are still there, but we just thought it'd be kind of weird if you pressed X instead, because of the kind of, if you would delete something in, let's say, Microsoft Word, you wouldn't press X, right? You press delete. That was the thinking. So anyway, if you double click on a word or you select a number of words, that kind of thing, and this works both ways. Okay, so if I make the selection here, it will change where that is in the manuscript text as well. But in any case, if you double click on a word that you want to get rid of, you press delete, it will cut that away. And you could, go back and hear your edits.
Machinery. Get to the only machine that's idle.
Like that worked out. So that's the idea. Just wanted to show you some things that were maybe things that you weren't aware of, and this is how you can use it for some one key editing there. Okay, so just to recap, some of the one key edits, it's defaulted this way. If you want to not have it this way for some reason, you can go into the properties. Okay, I'm sorry. You want to go into settings or options on window, and then you go to interface, and this key, this first one here, one key edit commands is checked. You could uncheck it if you want to, if you really want to hold down command and control more, but it's just defaulted this way. So the idea is that you can cut, copy, paste very easily with just C, V, B, kind of your standard stuff. And then you can do some rewinding, fast rewind, fast forward, all that stuff by doing J, K, and L keys, and the I and O for the in and out markers. And then when you're in the manuscript, it works a little differently just because the idea is like it's sort of more like a text editor. So if you want to cut something away, you just do the same thing, but you press delete. All right. And hope that makes sense to everybody out there. So yes, hopefully that makes your life a little bit easier. It has for mine for the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks or whatever, for sure. So, you know, definitely something that I didn't know about until somebody showed me. Same thing.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yep.
Is my audio coming through okay? I'm having some issues on my end. Can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you. Yep.
Okay. I'm going to have to take one ear out here because the audio settings have changed on me.
right.
So we do have a question that I'm going to show on stage. I have repeatedly had difficulty exporting my audiobook for ACX. Distortions are introduced into the recording during the export process. Also, the chapters begin too early, cutting off the last portion of the previous chapter. Now, this is a narrator question for anybody who doesn't know. We have an audiobook program as well as Hindenburg Pro. Jonathan, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So that question I'm going to answer at the table. So when we stop, because it's just too detailed to explain that stuff and specific to narrator. So for that, we will, when we stop this session, we'll break out to the tables, and you can ask Hindenburg trainers here like specific questions like that.
Okay. That is the only question. So I guess we will see you all at the tables. So grab a seat and we will chat with you in a minute or two.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Jonathan.